Hello everyone. What the Stack has, for the second year in a row, creating new, let's say, targets for all the other conferences so far. For me specifically, What the Stack has become a series of firsts. Last year, we, together with my dear friend Vekoslav, who you just watched, we essentially opened the conference with the first workshop of the first What the Stack. This year, again, together with Veko, we called up management and got to be first again. And for the first time, we have an outdoor stage. So DevCon, Black Hat, you're way behind us. We have an outdoor stage. Fuck you. So, with that out of the way, thank you again for joining us. What I'm going to be talking to you about is a lot more vibe coding. So first of all, let me ask you, who here does vibe coding? I was expecting more hands, essentially. So obviously, this shocking fact that there is somebody who is doing coding without vibe coding is going to be very relevant for us. And because we have a lot of vibe coders here, today we have a therapy session. Hello, my name is Bozidar, and I am a vibe coder. Thank you. So now we're going to say a little sincere sentences on the topic, and I hope that everyone's going to be as sincere with me, and we can work together to say how long it has been since we did vibe coding. For me, it was since this morning. Why are we here today? We're here today to talk about a product that we're building through some methodology of an MVP product, because nobody's going to wait for us to make it full, complete, and then deploy it somewhere. So we can debate whether the first is the proper way to make a MVP, or the second is the way to make a proper MVP, or the third is the way to make an MVP. For you, which one is it? 1, 2, or 3? Say it louder, please. 1, 2, or 3? Sorry? 2. Okay. Anyone else? 1. Interesting. 3? Nobody? Okay. Good. So, now we come to deploy to production. Somebody says, push it to production. What do you actually deploy? This. Can somebody raise their hand if they haven't deployed this to production? Okay, I have 2 hands. Respect for those. For the rest of us, this is in production, unfortunately. The fact of the matter is, now we have to take care of it. And that is why I'm talking to you today. I don't care how you got to it, whether you coded a single line of code or 1 million lines of code and only ask the AI once. It is now in production, and you have to take care of it. So what? There are a couple of problems, or a big list of problems, with doing coding with AI that I want to just note for you, and I'm going to try to give you some tools to make it better. So I'm not going to try to tell you don't do it. No, that doesn't work. I'm going to give you some practical tools that you can use to make it better, to make it safer. So number 1, let's start with this one. Architectural blindness. You ask the machine to build you something, and it builds you something, and you push it to production and it works. Do you have an actual idea of how it works? Where is the database? Where does the microservice run? What communicates with what? How? When? At what timestamps? What is the integrity? Anything. Maybe, but probably not really. And when you build all these things, machines tend to create a lot of injection flaws. So SQL injection, command injection, etc., who wasn't on our injection inspection workshop, you can visit us next time. We're going to repeat it. In the meantime, we have IDORs, insecure direct object reference. We have authorization flaws, so no validation of what my rights are. Hard-coded credentials. The session from last year, hunting secrets and finding secrets. We found secrets all over the internet, and it is happening every single day. Exposed infrastructures. How many data buckets are there available and how many data breaches are there because of just public data buckets or databases without passwords? Thousands. Supply chain attacks. LLMs generate supply chain or external libraries based on their last knowledge, which may be a year ago. So the version of whatever library you get is going to be from a year ago, which is probably vulnerable now. And somebody will hack it if you pin that particular number. Or the LLM consistently spits out non-existent libraries. They don't exist. But they repeat them and repeat them and repeat them. And then hackers just learn of those names of non-existent libraries, and they create those libraries. And your import will now work perfectly with a malware, because somebody installed malware in those non-existent, now existing packages. Ad hoc rewriting. Has somebody read this meme? I asked ChatGPT-5 to refactor my code, and it refactored my code, and it was beautiful, and it didn't work. Ad hoc rewriting. On the other hand, we are no longer just blind about architecture. The companies that deliver these products for us, these AI companies, they're not profitable. They are burning through piles of cash every single day. And they're charging us some marginal $20 a month, maybe? Something like that. So what's going to happen? They're going to have to start earning money. How? They're going to enshittify their products. They're going to reduce the number of GPUs that are used to give us results, meaning worse results. They're going to make it unaffordable, raise prices. They're going to actively try to take our data, what I call data theft. Whether it's legal through terms and conditions or illegal, etc., I don't care. They're going to try to take it because they need to be profitable. And also a fact, they are now retraining their models on what is now available in the internet. It is a public secret that what is available now on the internet has been significantly built by AI. So these new models are being retrained on AI slop. They are not getting better. They are getting worse. Also, these companies and these services are vulnerable to normal attacks, to social engineering, to data leaks, to injection flaws, to whatever. Does anybody know here that Google was hacked a month ago by way of something called Sales Loft Drift? It is an AI agent that Google allowed to access the Salesforce instance of Google. So somebody in Google decided that this AI is good enough for them. They granted it access. Somebody hacked the AI service, and the hacking was, let's say, fairly trivial. They stole OAuth 2 tokens, which is a common attack pattern. Nothing new there. So your brand new AI service, magic whatever, is actually very hackable, just like the rest of it. But the problem is that you give it a lot of power. We give it a lot of power. We have people that grant access to the AI to their entire email account. As of this morning, there is a new injection attack on GPT, Deep Search. I haven't processed it yet on Beyond Machines, but it is now a new injection attack, so people can send an email. If you're using deep research of GPT on your email account, you're fucked. Too much power and reach. That is where we are right now. So with all that, who is talking to you today? I'm Bozidar, as I said. I'm talking to you here because I have a lot of gray hair. And that came from a lot of things that I was being terrified of, like people chasing deadlines or being pressured into something. And I've made a lot of mistakes. And I've made a lot of incidents and handled a lot of incidents and had a lot of stress. And that's part of the job. That's where we are. Because unlike most of you here, my primary function is to ask people to do the right thing. Sometimes they listen. But in this context, much like Veko said before the break, the computer cannot be held accountable. So I'm trying to help you who will be held accountable for the things that go into production. That is my job here. Those are my contacts. There will be also a QR code at the end, so don't worry about it. So is this session for you? If you're the vibe coder that is going to deploy to production and say, I don't know, please walk away. This is not the session for you. If this is a session for you if you're ready to vibe code, to build something, to deploy it, and to take care of it. Otherwise, find somewhere else to be. What my lawyers make me say. What I'm going to tell you today is not a silver bullet, obviously. I'm trying to help you. It becomes your discipline and your final decision. And of course, if somebody's here from a larger company, that they're going to say, oh, this is bullshit. Because none of this is true. It is never this scary. You're just fear-mongering. There is a process. Context caution, human oversight, defense in depth, multiple security layers, continuous monitoring, your professional judgment. We have an expertise. We have threat assessments, risk assessments. More power to you people. Great. That is the way to go. Always. If you're part of such a company, come back and say, what is our process? How do we do this right? If you're a one-man show, like so many of us in our private time, continue watching. So let's start with context. And I'm going to play a little video for you.
Step 1. Get 2 pieces of bread out. Got 'em. Get a butter knife and get some PB. Take 1 piece of bread, spread it around with the butter knife.
No, Dad, with the peanut butter.
I'm just doing what it says. It says take 1 piece of bread, spread it around with the butter knife.
Hold on.
Get some jelly, rub it on the other half of the bread.
No, Dad, open the jelly.
Well, it doesn't say to do that. Put the breads together on top of each other. Take a big bite. This doesn't taste like a peanut butter jelly sandwich.
This goes on, and I can only recommend that you watch it as a full series of attempts. The man is trying to get his kids to write him an instruction manual to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And they miss steps, they miss instructions. And that is exactly what happens when we talk to an AI. We give it partial context. We give it some information. But the robot expects more information, or more and more information, in order to produce a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, not 2 pieces of bread that don't taste like jelly and peanut butter. So, my first advice is give the machine enough context. Otherwise, it is going to assume stuff, and it is going to be very painful. So don't be lazy at explaining things. The LLM can't read your mind, and always, after giving it context, ask it to do one thing, not everything. You don't want it to do everything, because it will try, and it will do something, and maybe it will work, for better or worse. Before asking it, tell it any constraints. I want you to do something within this requirement, within this library, with these models of a database, with this schema. If you don't know what to tell it to ask you. This is my context, but I'm not sure. So tell me more. How do I help you? Don't just spit out an instruction. Here is an example for you, right? Let's go practical right now. So we can do this. Oh, sorry. Wrong window here. Here we go. Yeah, this one. So this is Claude. And let's make something very specific for us. Build me an It says, build me an authentication system for what the stack rewards. Reward. Copy. Enter. And it's going to do something. Let's try Gemini, of course. So now we are, as Ilya said in the intro, they made it work at 3 a.m. I'm not saying they made it with LLM. But let's try and see what the LLM does. And the LLM does something. Here is our Claude that is doing React-based authentication. No idea what the stack rewards is. Absolutely no idea. But it's trying its best. It is coding stuff. Gemini is also doing something. Actually, it is even making a login page. Wow. Did we tell it not to use a password? Because you don't have a password. You have only a username to log in. No. So it missed. We didn't give it context. So now we should give it more context. How to do it? Obviously, we can try and try again and try again and try again. What I want to give you, instead of just give it more context, there is a repo. And this repo is going to be linked in the presentation at the end. This is the repo with all the help tools that I can give you today. Here is a context prompt markdown. Use this as a system prompt. Give it instructions. Tell it, confirm context. Tell me your assumptions. Then ask clarifying questions. Explicitly state what you're assuming. Generate coding with defensive programming. This is not an be-all and end-all program or a context, but it is very helpful because you're going to effectively slow down the race of the machine to just satisfy you. It is going to give you more control over what happens next. And if you're not sure, that machine is now going to start generating questions for you. And when you get more questions, you can start thinking about things. As Veko said, systems thinking. It is going to push you into systems thinking. Just give it something like this as a first instance. Now let's try and pushing this context here. And we say new chat, and we tell it do this. And of course, we tell it do this. And it will think about it. And after that, let's say, build me a login system. It is thinking, blah, blah, blah. Build me a login system for the stack. Run it. And here is again, run it. Build me a login system for what the stack rewards. And it is now thinking, confirming context. My initial assumption, suddenly the conversation changes. You are no longer just seeing a machine trying to race into production. You're seeing a machine that is now trying to tell you what it assumes it will be. And now you can say, no, whoa. Easy. You can do better. No, I don't want you to do all this. For fuck's sake, stop. Now you're better. But you can do even better. So let's try. So what is next? Can somebody tell me the difference between these two images? Anybody? I don't know if Dime has another beer for awards, but he should have. So what is the difference between these two images? Yes, go on. Sorry? Food for the stomach, food for thought. Anything else? Nice. Junk? Okay. Anything else? What if I tell you there is no difference? It's the same image. Fast food satisfies you immediately, delivered very fast, not good for you. Long term, very bad for you. AI generated code, satisfied immediately, usually not good for you. Long term, very bad for you. They are the same image. So what do we do about this? Stop the bad habits. Let the tools and the AI itself tell you, what the stack? What are you doing here? This is wrong. So what are we going to give you on this context? This is the tools to find and possibly fix before going into productions all those little problematic IDORs injections, exposed code, etc., etc., etc. How many of you here are using such tools daily? Very few hands. Okay, more hands. Still too few hands. What am I going to ask you to do? You can use it as I have shown you here on a pre-commit hook, or you can use it in another way. But here is how it works. The pre-commit hook code is here. This is the configuration. And I have produced for you a tool with 4 different control mechanisms. Git leaks to check for forgotten passwords. Then semgrep, which is a very powerful tool to find patterns which are usually exploitable through IDORs or through injections, etc. Then something specific for Python, which is called Bandit, because I do things in Python. Semgrep usually works very well. And finally, another for ESLint, which is for JavaScript. So, and on top of that, let's not forget underlying infrastructure. So whether you're on AWS or on Azure or whatever, you're usually doing some sort of infrastructure as code, or the machine is going to generate you infrastructure as code and tell you to run it. And then we have something called, for some reason it is not here, and I don't know why it's not here, but it is in the, I'm going to fix it. There is another tool in the runtime called Checkoff, which is a tool to check Terraform, CloudFormation, and other things for the same garbage. So you can check the repo later, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to add some garbage here. So let's see, and let's try some garbage. For some reason, let's just add things. Can you see the screen here? So I'm going to do this. Git add test/testvalues.js, let's call it, and then git add okay, let's go Python, and then let's go populate DB, maybe. Let's see what happens. And then we do git commit -m migrate code. Run. First, git leaks. You have a password somewhere. Stop doing this now. And now semgrep is going to do their magic. Oh, here we go. And then it is still going to do some more stuff and more stuff and more stuff. So, yeah, here we go. A bunch of controls are going to be run. And when you have a lot of these errors, at least what you can do is put them back in the machine. Hey, hello, you wrote this, but I have this. So can you tell me what is wrong? And then it will try, hopefully, to fix it. So ask it to review on the results. But, and this is a big but, insist on line-by-line corrections. Don't ask it to fix everything, because then you have the avalanche of code that you don't want, because it is still not manageable. You don't know what's happening. Here is a problem, and fix me one, and give me the changes. Not rewrite everything. That is the way you learn. You're going to read the results, you're going to see the effects, it is going to explain you why it's changing. It is an iterative process, but you will learn. One other thing that I want to give you is Dependabot. How many of you here know or use Dependabot? Still too few people. Dependabot is a dependency checker on GitHub. It is free, it is available to all repos, and it is checking whether your external dependencies are vulnerable. So if we see a real Dependabot alert here from a real repo, it is complaining that I haven't fixed all these things. And these are high and moderate, etc., and suddenly you have something critical. And when you have something critical, it is worth checking it. Maybe you decide not to fix it, but still worth checking it. Again, as I said, AI will generate usually pinned versions which are old. And then you just run dependabot, or just let it run itself on GitHub, push the code there, but make sure don't expose the code to the public first, and then you're happy. Or happier, you can fix this. Okay, so with that out of the way, we also have some security prompts. More stuff to tell it to stop doing garbage from the start. I'm not going to try it now because it's just too much. But the final item, or the next item that I want to talk to you about is, again, what is the difference between these two images? Obviously, you know the answer. There is no difference. It's the same image. Because just like in AI code, you start small, very small. And then you add more, and you add more, and you add more. And then you refactor everything, and it doesn't work, or it works. It is an avalanche of code. You don't stop the avalanche when it becomes too big. You can't. And let me tell you a secret. Your management is not going to let you disable production. They're going to insist that you keep it running. You're not going back from that car with a bicycle under it. So you have to run it like that. So what can you do about this? Stop the project from becoming an avalanche. Ask it for one thing. Going back to systems thinking, think about how you parse out your project so it has separate components, and then you ask it for one component. Iterate on one component. Finish one component, be happy with it. Happier with it. Then move on. Then move on. Then move on. One thing that I can't repeat enough, write part of the changes yourself. You'll make a mistake. Nobody cares. You make another mistake. Nobody cares. Then you make less mistakes and no mistakes. You will learn. Test and deploy, test new features and old features, also known as regression testing, maybe? Anybody? Regression testing. Always test the old features when you add new code, because usually it gets broken. And finally, don't give the AI power of deployment immediately. You may need to. Be very, very careful with those. Agentic code is very dangerous because it's still a statistical parrot. It will guess the best result and will not be consistent. And finally, we have another prompt for you, avalanche code. So here is what you give it as a system prompt to tell it to stop giving you an avalanche of code. I'm not going to tell you how to do it, but please try to use these system prompts. On system prompts, before we go into the final one, remember, there is something called AI amnesia. After enough iterations of the conversation, it is going to forget stuff. It is going to start going sideways, going to forget the system instructions. You need to remember this, and you need to repeat the instructions or start a new chat. Because yes, there is such a thing as amnesia. Veko, actually, we worked on a piece of code, and he used some LLM, and he got, make it all blue. Now it's all blue. It was green. No, make it all blue. Yes, now it's all blue. It was still green. No, you can't get it back. Final, find the difference between these two images. Of course, it is a dangerous tool. It is a powerful tool, and it can stop working. So it is still a tool. Never give real API keys, never give real passwords, real PII credit cards. Never grant access to your entire data. Why? Because data greed is a disease, and every one of us is infected. Remember that. Check terms and conditions. Hello to my 3 lawyers, my very dear friends and colleagues. Terms and conditions, check, because everybody promises not to touch your data until they need more money. Do you know now that every single AI company is trying to build or push a new browser on you? Why? Because they want your data. They want to sit on your computer. They want to capture the data at the source. What if you just licensed through the terms and conditions, your brand new idea that you want to patent, and suddenly they come in and say, no, I have this. You gave me access to it, so fuck you. This is where we are. And finally, make continuity plans. Do you have a local LLM? We don't have time for me to show you today, but on this computer, there is a local LLM through LM Studio. Run it locally. It runs very well. I was surprised that one of the local models that I used was most careful about not generating code. Instead of just dumping out code, it started asking questions, which was fantastic. And remember, what you know can't be taken from yourself. So start learning things. So obviously, what I told you today is you can build software without devs, but you need to do all these specific things to make it productive, and then break it down into very detailed steps, and very carefully manage technical debt, etc., etc. And finally, I told you to learn code. Yes, I feel like a clown. Thank you for attending my TED Talk. But, after that, let's repeat. The machine can't be held accountable. So help yourself so you aren't held accountable. And these little checkboxes here, try to follow them. Try to use them as much as you can, as much as you remember them. Remember context. Remember external tools for security. Prevent code avalanche. Build your skills and don't trust the fucking vendors. They are not here because they like you. So this was it. Dima, you can just go on with managing. In the meantime, you have two different QR codes. One is for if you want to contact me. The second is linked to the repo where everything that I told you is already placed. Thank you again.